because you think 5G is going to roll out fast. You don't know what you're talking about.
Not only that, but the first, probably the first year at least of 5G is going to be not that good.
Do you remember how 4G rolled out? How terrible it was?
I don't know.
It was
no,
real
I don't
bad.
remember.
You were in kindergarten back then, but it was really bad. Okay, and when you had a 4G phone, your battery lasts about 3.5 hours.
That's a good point. All right. So anyway, next up, wanted to get to an interview that our own Apple reporter Shara Tipkin had with Apple's VP of Product Marketing. He says he told Shara the iPhone XR is selling great, better than the XS and the XS Max, which, okay, that's good news, I guess, for Apple, but I can't help but read this story and feel like there's this like odd desperation around Apple at this point.
It's doing well. It's doing real
We're doing
well.
great.
It's sold more than the one that's not selling.
Well, what are your impressions on that?
I don't know. I think like ever since they talked about how they were going to change the way they talked about sales, things have felt a little weird in the room.
That they're trying to hide something.
Right. It seems like they're trying to conceal something about it. I don't know if I think it's more of them saying like, oh, that doesn't accurately reflect how well the company's doing. And being like, I feel like it would reflect that, right? Like you guys sell stuff.
I mean, like more information to me feels like that's good, but anyway.
It's just forcing them to have to somehow justify the fact that they're selling these things well, which I think comes off a little strange.
Sure. Either way, if you want to read more about these stories, check them out on CNET. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm Jeff Bacalar.
Thanks for listening.
Well, we went over.
We always go over.
Oh, okay.
But it was fun anyway.
I think we did a great job.
I think it was the best podcast we've ever done.
That's flattering, to say the least.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us for the recording of the audio podcast. You can subscribe to that and take it along in your pocket using the links below. Until then, we're going to go ahead and take your questions and comments from the chat, starting right off with one from our old buddy Matthew Datcher, who says, how freaking expensive will the S10 be? The mainstream phone vendors have lost me with these outrageous prices.
Yeah, you're totally right. I switched over to Android and I got an S8, what was it, a year ago? Because it was way cheaper than the iPhone, and boy was I right, because the newest versions of the iPhone have been really, really expensive. Now, granted, I got my wife an iPhone 10, which is now a discontinued model, through Verizon on Black Friday for under $500.
That's pretty good.
That's a reasonable price for a new phone, especially if you're going to keep it for 3 years.
That's not a new phone.
I mean, it's a brand new out-of-the-box phone. It's not refurbished or used.
It's a year old, though, right?
It is a year-old model, and it is discontinued, which is why you got it cheaper. But what justification do I have for buying a brand new, absolutely new phone for this year's model for twice the price?
No,
I don't.
It's simply not worth it. Plus, like when you have an iPhone, and again, like I have an Android. I think iPhones are fine. I think when you get an Android, when you get an iPhone, it's like living in SF or New York. There's just like the cost of living is higher.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the things you need to buy for it are more expensive.
What, for an iPhone?
Yeah, it just feels like a more expensive product to own as opposed to getting by with maybe a cheaper Android. Maybe not a flagship Android, but like a cheaper one.
So there might be a budget S10, which I think would make Datch happier.
Are there rumors that there's still like 3 versions of it?
Yes, 3 versions.
Yeah.
One of them would be that 5G version.
Right.
There would also be a budget model and also a plus model.
Who the hell are you buying a 5G phone when there's no 5G? It
This
was
is
like
literally bleeding edge people that just want to tell people that they have a 5G
and they
phone.
want to fly to some town in
Kuala
Arizona
Lumpur.
where it works, and that's
It's gonna be somewhere, and yes.
It's just like when the TVs come out, like people who own 4K TVs and watch nothing but like 720 cable on it. I don't understand these people either. Like
It's true.
It's just insane. You're filling up your rocket ship with unleaded. It's just it's crazy to me.
My hope is that the budget phone stays well below $1,000.
Yeah.
I really hope so. Usually Samsung does the Note more expensive, but the S phones, they tend to be a little bit more reasonable. This is another thing. I mean, is it really going to kill you to get an S9 or like an older model? I don't know. Like maybe everybody wants to get the absolute brand new technology, but generally speaking, you're going to get a much better deal if you buy a new phone, but it's a year-old model or 2 years old.
And I think we're at a point now where phones are so good. Like anything you buy is pretty damn good.
Pretty good.
And they last long too. I had my original Pixel for 2 years, and it was.
That's
fine.
not even that long.
That's not even that long. It was
Usually,
fine.
I keep a phone for like at least 3 years minimum.
That's I feel like that's above
Really?
average. Or you know what I mean? Like
I put it in a velvet case every night.
yeah.
I kiss it goodnight.
Well,
I mean, like those are important.
You put it to
elements.
bed. I get it. You know,
Right.
it's your baby.
You take care of it. Take care of your phone.
My point being, you don't need to get a new one every year to feel that effect of like the brand new thing. Like you can get a phone that's 1, maybe 2 years old and still feel like you have this new fast thing.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to 5G. I mean, this thing won't be out till March, right, or so, right?
Yeah, around February or March.
So I don't know. I can't see 5G like making a miraculous turnaround. Plus, who knows if this thing will even have it.
Yeah. Anyway, great question, Datch. Let's get to some more.
Well, a lot of people are still talking about 5G Lost Legacy. Mario Chambers wondering if the upgrade is going to be in time for this March release. You fairly well covered this, but I like Srinjoy's follow-up saying 5G droolers were literally drooling for Red Phone until last month. Where are they now? Silent.
5G droolers.
Those are some fighting words.
That's a tough like word combination to say.
5G droolers?
Yeah. We could make like a Dr. Seuss book about 5G droolers, droolingly.
I don't
you
get
lost me.
5G in my house. I don't get 5G in my car. I don't get 5G on my roof. I mean,
I don't get
like,
5G with a
it's
mouse.
not like it's some freaking secret either. Like it is very public information that 5G is not where it needs to be to support.
It feels very clear to me that this is a marketing ploy, I would think, from
Yes.
Samsung to come out with something this early to say we had one of the first 5G
Right.
phones, or we had the first 5G phone in the US or something like that.
right, just to plant their stake in the ground.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just about as valuable as being first in the comments on YouTube.
Totally.
Ouch.
Less so.
Hey,
Perhaps.
Don't mock our viewers.
At least there's posterity on YouTube comments, right?
Yeah.
True
well,
that.
just remember to spell it right. It's Frist.
You think people do that a lot? I think people do that on purpose as to be funny.
What, Frist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frist! Exclamation point.
Don't at me, Jeff. Don't at me. All right, here's one from Joseph asking if we think that the actual upgrade to the S10 from the S9 will be a significant one enough to justify actually paying that money. We've talked about like what the gaps are. Jeff, you're saying you got at least 2 years out of your last phone. Do we think that with any of these rumored implementations on the S10, that dropping the S9 this early on in your experience with it would be valuable enough to go to that S10?
I don't know. I'm a cheapskate. I think you should hold your phone for at least 2 years.
Yes.
But if you're
most cases.
if you're a power user, I know there are a lot of iPhone people out there that they get the newest one every single year, and that makes them very happy.
I mean,
I don't think that that's what every consumer needs to do
Yeah.
or should do.
there's two sides to it. You know, one, it's a thing of whether or not money is an issue for you personally. I think like a lot of people who do the year-over-year upgrade wind up selling their old one or whatever it is. The value for used phones in just a year kind of stays pretty high.
Yes.
You know, you can get
Absolutely.
some good money
That's a good point.
for your phone if you sell it on eBay. Just don't sell it back to your carrier because they'll hose
usually,
you.
yeah, unless they're running
Unless that's
some
part of
sort
like
of
a deal, right?
Unless there's a deal. But yeah, I mean, like that is a good point because
Yeah,
going
especially
back
if
to
you
the
own
point
it
with
straight
my
up.
wife.
Yeah.
So my wife has had an iPhone 6 for
Oh.
4 years.
Oh wow, good for her.
So it has no value to
Sure,
it
just
anymore.
throw that in the
And the
garbage.
screen is cracked.
Yeah.
There is no money attached to it whatsoever. So
Sure.
what we purchased it for 4 years ago,
guys made
we've
out.
we've run it into the ground though. It
Yeah.
has no resale value.
You drove that 1989 Honda Civic right into the ground.
That's right.
430,000 miles on it. It was on its last leg, and you just
Oh, boy,
got
is
your
it
money's
ever.
worth. You
Boy,
just
is it ever.
donated it to charity.
That's
after that.
right. 1-800-CARS for kids.
Oh
Yeah.
man. So yeah, I think like for most people, the year-over-year upgrade is kind of a silly thing. Again, you can do whatever the hell you want.
It's your money.
Yeah, it's your money. You ultimately have to make the decision. Like I feel like I realize people want advice, and you heard it, but it's good. You know whether or not you're gonna do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're
Like,
not going to not do it because we told you
Yeah,
not
I mean,
to.
you know what you're gonna do. Just be smart about it, is what we can say, right?
Wow, you're such a good dad.
Yeah.
What dad advice.
Look, I'm a dad now, so I got dad advice.
That's great dad advice.
Personally, I think if you got any extra expendable cash, you should just go ahead and get a Honda Civic.
Yes.
Here's
Yeah.
one from Tech Slacker. Why is Samsung struggling so much? Isn't the Note 9 the best Android available on the
not.
market
Are they
now? They're not really
I
struggling.
I don't mean to give the impression that Samsung is struggling. They had a real big problem with the Note 7.
Right.
That was a very dark time for them. The point that I was making, especially with that headline, was Huawei is now the number 2 phone maker, just below Samsung. Samsung's still number 1, but Huawei is definitely nipping at their heels, and they're coming out with better and better phones, and that's why Samsung needs a good phone. It needs to show up really well for this. Under no circumstances do I want to present this as Samsung is in crisis, because that's not the case.
I think this is kind of unrelated. For me, I will never buy a phone that's not a Pixel, unless Google could somehow work it out with these third-party manufacturers and offer a vanilla version of Android on their phone. That's the only reason I stay away, because I want the latest update right away.
And you want pure
I want
Android.
vanilla friggin' Android. I don't want your dumbass overlay that has like Bixby or whatever the F Samsung uses. I don't know what it is. It's pointless. It's worthless. They know it. Everyone knows it, right?
Nice.
It's
Wow.
pointless.
I enjoyed that soapbox.
But
That
like,
was
does
good
anybody
stuff.
I bought my Galaxy for Bixby?
No.
No,
Nobody
no
says
one's
that
ever
right
said
now.
that.
I think it's a long-term play for Samsung.
I get it. Like they want to somehow like have a foot in the door between the consumer and Google.
And they
I
want
get
the
that.
data. I mean, look, it reminds me of Apple Maps, which came out and was a hot mess.
What, you mean the greatest navigational software in the history of phones?
Yes.
Yes, that
Exactly,
one.
that one.
Just leading people into lakes and stuff.
Yes, but that was a couple years ago. After they rolled it out, they got a lot of data.
Yeah.
They fixed the bugs. There were a lot of bugs. It has improved. Is it as good as Google Maps?
Yeah, no
I would
one
probably
uses it.
argue no, not
No one
really.
uses it.
I think a lot more people use it than you think.
What I
but
would
Google
love to
Maps is still the gold standard.
Like I would love to see what the pie chart looks like for.
I don't have
wanna
that
say,
information.
Yeah, I want to say the sliver that's Apple Maps is just like a tiny little bit of, not even a slice.
I don't actually know. I wish I had that context,
Yeah.
but I feel like they've definitely improved it to the
Pull
point
that
that
up,
it's
Brian.
not a mess.
Let's get that data on the screen.
Let's see.
man.
I'll get right
Apple
on
Maps
that.
versus Google Maps.
I'll get right on that. Until then, take another question. Marcus Tube 80. Will the S10 have the Snapdragon 845?
I don't know. I
don't
used
know.
to cover chips. I don't cover chips anymore. I'm gonna punt on this one.
Yeah,
not
I'm
sure.
actually going to punt as well. I'm actually going to turn around and kick the ball through my own goalpost. Is what I'm gonna do.
If that's
on that one.
Okay, this is how little I know about chips now. If that is the newest chip from Qualcomm, then great. That probably will go in the S10 because usually Samsung gets the first bite. And that's also usually why they come out with that phone in February or March. Usually it's timed for Mobile World Congress. It's this nice handshake that they do with Qualcomm where Qualcomm is like, hey, here's our latest and greatest
Right.
chip.
Want
and
it?
guess what? It's going in the, this flagship
Sure.
phone from a major carrier. But unfortunately, I apologize that it's not an area that I look into nearly as much as I used to.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I have really nothing to add besides snarky stuff. So I'm gonna.
Which is why you're here.
It's gonna
Thank
end
you.
right here. Yeah.
All right, I'm still digging for this information, but I think I got some. I just want to make sure
Oh, wow.
to validate it before we move on to that. So take another question. Ryan says, isn't the dot more annoying than the notch? That would
I
be
agree.
disruptive to me. I still hate the notch, though. This goes on. Datcher says I would prefer bringing back the bezel instead of getting rid of the notch.
I
know
don't
what?
Somebody
I
else in
agree-
here. Oh,
I agree
Adam
with
says
Datch.
I don't particularly like notches, but the pinhole in the screen would make my OCD go crazy.
I don't agree. I think like if you look at your phone and if you have a notch already, it's also about real estate too, right? Like
Yeah.
a pinhole will take up so much less real estate. If they put we're talking Android anyway, right? So you don't have to worry about it being like this awful, unlockable Apple disaster. If you just build it into the software, like where the time is on an Android phone, just move the time. Like they could program it to move the time over 0.5 centimeter and you're done. And then your phone's perfect and everything's perfect. Like It's not, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you kind of have a point there.
I'm
but
just saying, like, it is so easy to do for Android. It is so easy for that to be a thing.
You kind of have a point there. However,
And everything
I
just
agree
shifts
with
over.
whoever commented and said it would drive them crazy from an OCD perspective.
They're
My God, I
empirically
feel
wrong.
you.
They're wrong.
You know what? I totally disagree with you.
No,
I
it's just
really,
like,
it would really drive me
I
up
don't
a
want
wall.
to. I don't want to show my screen because I got nasty stuff on here. But it's just you just push everything over to the right a couple millimeters.
Okay, stop looking at porn while we're
I'm
doing
not
a podcast.
looking that up. I'm telling it's a personal work email. I don't want people seeing my emails.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's any validation, we're only running at 1080p, so the resolution's not good enough to read your email anyway. So
It's fair.
Haha. Fine.
It's fair. What else we got?
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the market share on this one. So the first thing I came across was this article from Cult of Mac that says Apple Maps is dominating Google in the UK. If you look close, it's actually from 2014, so that's only a couple years after.
This is relevant in two ways.
After
Hey, come
Apple
on.
Maps came out, it aggressively stole a significant portion of the market within only a couple of years.
Wasn't Google also not on the App Store for a very long time?
I don't
recall
think so.
that.
I don't know. A, that's super old, and B, it's the UK. No one has phones there.
Nobody has phones in the UK.
Yeah,
Everybody
everyone knows that. Come
Everybody
on.
knows that the UK doesn't have smartphones
I mean,
yet.
I realize, it's not your job, Brian. I realize, but like that's, what else we got?
So here's the more relevant one that actually shows a little bit of the market share and how it's fluxed. And this is from 2017, and this is coming from The Guardian, showing
Another British thing.
God forbid.
Well,
Dude, he's doing it on the fly.
I mean, we are in the U.S., but nevertheless.
Either way, we're actually seeing that there was a chunk taken out of the Google Maps by Apple Maps.
Right.
But Google still leads overall. It looks like people have settled into their ecosystems, and if you're there, you're there, and if you're not, you're not. And
That's
it's just gonna
exactly
coast
right.
like that.
I think you are failing to consider the fact that iOS is a very powerful operating system. It's
Where
in the
like
top
people
2.
don't even know. They're just like, I'm Maps. This is Maps.
If that's the default.
Right, it's
Basically, if
just
you
the
open
default
an
thing.
email,
Yeah.
you open an email
click
on your
on-
iPhone, you click on it, and it opens up Apple Maps.
Sure.
It takes a different. It takes certain type of person, maybe somebody that's a little bit more
Be
sophisticated
like,
with their technology.
No, change my default.
No, not even change my default. I'm gonna copy this, and then I'm gonna open Google Maps, and then I'm gonna put it in Google Maps.
Can you do that in an iPhone?
I do it all the time.
No. In an iPhone, can you
Yes.
change default apps? You have to be able to. I mean, I realize
think
it's like
so.
the most locked down OS on earth, but you have to.
I have
be
an
able to.
iPhone for work, and I don't believe you can do that. If
No
you
way.
could, if you could, it would make my life a lot easier.
It's my one Achilles heel. I don't necessarily know the ins and outs of all that, but anyway,
If any of the commenters know that question, know the answer
you
to that,
have
that
to
would
be able
really
to do
useful.
that. There's no way. Apple's always like, nope, we're first. There's no way. I
Feels
would
like
be,
a very Apple thing to do.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe Apple in like 2012.
That's when it came out.
I'm saying like Apple in 2018. Maybe they're a little more flexible.
We're
with
gonna
that.
try to do some more research on the fly on that one too.
All right, what else we got?
All right, we're closing in on the end here, so let's just kind of see how many we can fly through on the fly. Our Wallop wants us to throw back to the in-screen fingerprint reader. Seems like a lot of tech reviewers had favorable thoughts about using in-screen fingerprint reader. I don't recall which one of you made the comment, but he wants you to expand on why you think they are not working well.
Because didn't Lynn review it? We reviewed one,
Yes, there are some early.
and she was like, "This is dog poop." She said, "She's
Dog's
like, this
poop.
is." That's not a direct quote, but she did. Someone said, "I am positive." I read I don't know if it was like, what the hell's the one with the in-screen one that's out now? It's like
I believe it's the
OnePlus
Huawei
or Huawei.
Huawei Mate 20
Mate
Pro.
20.
Yeah, the Mate. Yeah,
I believe.
and she said it's not great, and it's also slow, which is a deal breaker for me. Once you get used
Doesn't
to that,
surprise me though.
of course, because it's the
early.
first.
Yeah.
Once you get used to the instant unlocking with fingerprint scan tech, I mean that's it. Like I'm not saying it's not going to get there. It will definitely get there. It's just not there yet. So don't buy something, in my opinion, that is a step back from what's currently out there in terms of experience. I mean, what are you doing? Unless you're willing to, sacrifice that, best experience for having the first to
the latest
market.
and greatest stuff. Yeah. I really like the idea of a fingerprint in-screen
Totally, that'd be great.
sensor,
Just to go like bop. Although you know what, like I really love it on the back, just going like that. I mean, I'm just like, whoop, done.
I have that on my S8.
Right?
Yeah, it's
I've
right
got
next
that
to the
on
camera,
my
unfortunately.
S8 too, and I don't love it. I don't. It's uncomfortable for me, and that's a very personal, subjective
Well, you
thing.
got those little bird fingers. Maybe that's what it is.
Look at this guy.
You got those little. Maybe you got those little baby bird fingers.
I don't know. I just think it's not nearly as accurate as I wish it was. I miss
Oh.
just being able to. I would, for one, I'd rather it be on the front. For two, I would rather not have it at all and just use key code.
Really? You can do that,
I know. I was trying to give it a fair shot, and like after I've had this phone 5-6 months now, maybe, and everything else is fine. I just don't love the fingerprint scanner.
It doesn't work great. We both have
It's
very
old.
similar phones.
It's 2 years old?
It's a year old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But it doesn't work great. Like if I'm logging into an app and
Look
it
at
uses
that.
a fingerprint.
That's quick. You saw that.
Yeah. Mine's, I have to tab it like 3 times for it to work, which can be pretty annoying.
That is annoying. The first fingerprint one I had, I think, was a Nexus 6P, and that was a subpar experience in my opinion. So
that was really early on in that.
It was. So
So-
I abandoned it, and then I just started drawing little patterns to unlock my phone.
All right, shout out to the chat. Ryan Williams does verify that Google Maps was not available for a little while, was not years though. Timothy tells us that when you try to uninstall Apple Maps, you get an error. I'm not surprised by that at all.
Thanks, guys.
But we still don't know if you can change the default map app.
Well, Ben, go try.
Do it now,
I mean,
Ben.
what? I have to dig through settings? All right, everybody just
We'll
keep
let
quiet.
you know on tomorrow's 3:59 how this shakes out. This is what we call in the business a cliffhanger.
All right, so let's talk about those cameras. That thing's going to have way too many cameras and way too many cooks indefinitely. Prashant Kumar asks, will the S10 inevitably have 8K camera support?
Oh, God, I really hope not. What would the point of that be?
Yeah, I don't know.
This is 8K camera support.
I mean,
You can't see in 8K. There's no point. And why would you want it in your tiny little screen anyway?
Marketing ploy. Yet again, a marketing ploy. Just to say that we've got it, just to get you to spend more money. I don't actually like the fact that the Google, Home Hub doesn't have a video camera in it.
why?
Because it's like video chats with the display is a big reason why you would have a smart display in the first place.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
However, they don't have the camera and they actually paid it forward to the consumer and lowered the cost, which is beneficial. So if you're going to have 8K, if you're going to have 6 cameras, you think they're not going to charge you for that stuff? And it's all these additions that they're not really necessary, but it causes you to spend more money on this stuff.
Yeah, the whole resolution porn just drives me crazy. Like how people get these overly capable pieces of hardware and then don't take advantage of it. It's more just like, I got this trim line of this car just to say I have it, but I don't drive the thing.
That is how a lot of stuff works, for
I
sure.
know. It's just awesome.
Tech Slacker says you cannot change default apps on the iOS, but you can choose to open files with another app, like a document. So there's that.
So that sounds like that's a confirmed.
Right, that you cannot switch it.
you
Well, you
can.
essentially got to cheat the system.
You got to cheat the system. Okay.
Whoa, this is we play by the book here.
This is a hot take show.
This is we can't detour ourselves here.
No. Oh, good pun too. We're talking about maps.
You got it.
Nice.
All right, let's take one kind of off in the left field here from Syrinjoy. Do you see a positive effect of Samsung's One UI program in the Android market rolling into 2019?
I don't know what that is.
Sure. Oh God, what is One UI? I remember we wrote about this. To me, from what I recall about One UI, it was a lot of promises about them really streamlining their user experience and their operating system. The problem is
their version of Android, their overlaid version, consistent across all brands.
Yeah, and they're
all
gonna make improvements to, if I remember, messages and the clock app. And the problem is that it's hard to really believe Samsung because they have so much bloatware and they have so much stuff that kind of gets in the way.
Question. Sorry to interrupt, but question. You're telling me that the Note 10, what are they at? Note 10? What the
I
hell?
think it's the 9.
All right, whatever.
We're on 9 now.
The Note 9's Android is different than the S9's Android?
No, it's the same.
So then what are we talking about?
So One UI is generally like, it's the way that they presented it, and Srinjoy probably remembers this a little bit better than I do, is we're doing an overhaul on the way that we have the user experience. We're trying to make it much more like understandable for users, much more simplified. Because I remember when I switched to a Samsung phone, there were like 15 different ways to do all sorts of stuff.
Okay, I understand.
So like, hey, we're just going to make it a little bit easier to do. We're going to also like just improve some of the basic apps like the clock app to have you be able to do more stuff that you want to do with it. So
Got it. Okay.
it sounds like very positive promises. The entire pitch sounded like this is exactly what we want you guys to be saying, but I would love to see the actual execution
Sure.
of this, and that's where I'm a little more skeptical.
Okay. All right. Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
All right, we're at the end of the line here, so let's just talk real quick about what the future implementations are going to be to actually make phones worthwhile. I like this comment from Tim. He says, I think cell phones have reached a plateau with design. Hardware design is something that's somewhat overdone. Software is where they need to aim. Google has call screen and night sight. That's amazing. Ikmel says people want folding phone right now.
Bingo.
That's way more valuable than resolution or a butt ton of cameras. And even modularity could potentially be something on the horizon. I know they've kind of shot at that and failed in the past, but these are the things that are actually going to make phones exciting again. I don't care about your friggin' emojis. I don't care about your giant cameras that do the bokeh effect. I can do that too. I'm with these guys. I'd rather see something actually innovative and interesting that bring a new use case to the form factor. You know, like all those vocab
Damn.
words.
I don't
That
think
was
you're
a
ever
lot
going to
of-
see modular stuff in a meaningful way. It just doesn't make sense.
Well,
Maybe
not only
not,
that,
but I'd
it was
rather see them
attempted.
try at that than just shoving more cameras under the hood.
I mean, you know, I don't know. Unless there is some earth-shattering benefit from all of these additional cameras, which I feel like I still have yet to be really convinced. The coolest thing I saw was like what someone showed me like a Facebook 3D photo. I thought that was like marginally cool. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, that's like a 3 in the cool.
That's very marginal.
It's low.
It's cool, but where does it become valuable?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It does not become valuable.
Okay.
I just think like you're gonna see the biggest innovations in software, and that's really kind of it.
I'm going to disagree with you again.
Okay, good.
The foldable is,
I don't want that.
look.
What do you need a foldable phone?
It could end up being a gimmick.
But
It
why?
really
Tell me
could
why
be.
you need it.
Because the idea would be that you would only have one device that would be both a phone and a tablet for you. If you want a bigger screen to actually get more work done,
How
you
thick
would
is
be
my
able-
thing? How thick is my thing?
It's,
Like if it's this thick folded, sure.
I think they might eventually get to that.
Ugh.
The early designs
Gotta
are
wait
not
another
going to be as
11
impressive.
years for this stuff.
That being said, this is the first major new innovation. And again, this is coming from Samsung and it's expected next year. It's the first major new innovation on the hardware side that's really going to get a lot of the stuff out of our, like a lot of us out of our funk about, these phones, they all look the same. They all do the same stuff.
Yeah.
All they're doing is
I
adding more
gotcha.
cameras. That being said, again, it might just end up being a gimmick. It might not be utilized properly from a software perspective. And I would also argue people need to be patient with it because the first generation is probably going to be crappy.
Yeah.
But, you know, if they see enough value in it, they're probably going to come out with more. I would expect Samsung to come out with more regardless.
I'll admit I am intrigued by the notion of a foldable phone, but it is going to be a very fine line for pass fail for me because if it is significantly thicker than this, which is as thick as I will go these days, believe me, I will not support it until it gets thinner.
Well, I think we got to
you
peek
heard it
at
first.
we've got to peek here at the folding phone, and granted, this is just a prototype, but it doesn't look too bad. I think we've seen
What, the silhouetted thing? Oh, nice. That was the best Game Boy they ever made. That Game Boy was the shiz. Did you have an SP?
No, I did not.
You definitely had one, Brian.
No, I had OG Game Boy, and it stayed alive until about 4 years ago.
Wait.
Wow.
That was your Game Boy?
For
Yeah,
4
first edition.
So
Yeah.
you didn't play
past 20
Color
years.
Advance?
Friends had them. I would borrow them and play them, but mine kept running, so I stayed with that.
DS, 3DS.
Never owned one.
Interesting.
Okay.
Guys, we are out of time. I actually have something else to do soon.
Yeah.
These were great questions.
Yeah, I have
this
to
has
go
been a
home,
really
so-
excellent show. Before we go, just a PSA reminding everyone that tomorrow is International Computer Security Day. Began in 1988. It serves as a reminder to protect your computer and information, run antivirus, spyware, and malware scans, update your passwords, and encrypt your backups to the cloud. Tell us how you celebrate Computer Security Day, and Ben, go ahead and take us on out of here.
All right. And that's a wrap for the week. The 359 is available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, FeedBurner, Google Play Music, Google Podcasts, the Amazon Echo, and of course, CNET.com. Jeff, it's been a pleasure. You're a gentleman.
Thanks.
And,
Thanks for having me.
And
Love
a sailor.
this. I love doing this.
Okay. And we'll see you again on Monday.
Bye, folks. Have a great weekend.